gives the support on our enterprise core component, all those ECC systems kind of thing by 2027, and all the customer should be on the S4 HANA, so that that will be it will be easy for SAP as well as for the client, because to handle two different type of design structure and all. But this is what SAP platform looks like. One sec. All right. So basically, this is what the roadmap is. The SAP wants to come up with your simplified user interfaces and all, and some analyticals, because like most of the people already know, S4 HANA box is uh, very fast, because it's an in-memory technology. It runs 1800 times faster than what we normally had. So, and you will get close to a real-time reportings or analytical reports. So this way, it's a next generation solution for from SAP's standpoint. Now, this is the strategic direction right now from TM S4 HANA, which basically it basically tells what are the different offerings they are coming up in year 2020, and then there are some roadmaps which is scheduled for 2021 and 2022. And these roadmaps, it just increases or enhance the functionality whatever they currently have in their S4 HANA 1909 box. Moving on to the next slide, which basically I think which basically give you an overview of what all the course details we're gonna uh, cover in the training session. And believe me, this is gonna be a very stretch training, because it has a lot of topics we need to cover, because now we have two different type of services we are offering. So uh, I mean, you can have your side by side business solution, or you can integrate your TM with your S4 HANA system. So both have different solutions, and both has their pros and cons. And in the training, we will discuss both the things, because customers or clients, they are still using side by side solutions. Even my company, we are still on 9.3, and we are migrating to 9.5, because we are going n minus one version. We are not going with 9.6. We are going on 9.5. So we are still not on S4 HANA. Uh, so so this type of training would be very exhaustive, and it will deal with multiple type of system. But we will be focusing on only on 1909, because anyways this is going to be the future for SAP. But we will give, or we will discuss more about the new solutions, uh, whatever is there in the standalone solution. So the solution, the course information is this. So what we normally do is, in our training session, we're going to talk about more about the TM processes, like as I said earlier in during my initial discussion. We're going to talk about more about the TM processes, and then we will talk about that how the organization structures differ from different from the ECC box, and how we create those organization structures. And then we will move on to the master data. So the master data itself is a very big thing, because that is the base, and if the master data is wrong, everything is wrong. And believe me, this had a problem in in my current company, and when I joined, that was one of the big issue for them. It was totally kiosk, and it took me almost 7 to 8 months to bring the system in a proper ways what the business wanted, to set up the proper master data. I come up with a specific strategy that how we can do the planning kind of thing. So that master data is very much required. Like most of the people knows, like if anything garbage in, garbage out kind of thing. So that's how it is. So we'll discuss more about the detailed information about the master data, which includes your transportation network, your location zones, your lanes, your transshipment locations. Then we will talk about the product master, which is nothing but a material master. We'll talk about the business partner, resources, routes, and all. Then, since the training will be in the IDES system, so we'll not be able to do any integration with any GIS system. GIS system is like, basically it's a geographical information system. So based on your longitude, latitudes, and altitudes, system will determine what is the distance between your one location to another location. So those informations are provided by GIS system. Like I said, like, we do have, I mean, we have different systems available in the market. Like we do have Rand McNally, MileMaker. We do have a PC Miler. We do have a here. So I worked on all modules, and I know that, those modules are very good. Here is little bit, it basically based on the Google Map. So that's more about, it's not that close, but the PC Miler and MileMaker, Rand McNally are very very closest and very accurate, I would say, compared to others. Then we'll discuss about the. I mean, for this integration, I will give you or I'll share you some documents and I will show you how the integration done, because that itself is requires lot of effort. Plus, if you go to any project, this integration with GIS is must. You will have this information in the system. I mean, without this, there is no project will be live. I mean, SAP has come up with their own solution. If you cannot activate your GIS, SAP has their own those uh, longitude, latitude, and altitude calculation in their system. But if you want to get a real-time correct uh, picture based upon your means of transport, then you will definitely go for GIS. And then moving on to your freight unit building rules, like you said, uh, we will have discuss about in depth how the freight units are being built, because freight unit is kind of is a is is a base. If your freight unit is the freight unit building is not correct, then it's going to be a very very difficult for the planners or your optimizer to handle this thing. So all these things you need to be uh, you need to keep in mind whenever you work on any projects, that which approach we need to use, plus which approach or what suggestion you can give it to the business so that they can go with the solutions and all. And then we'll talk about the freight agreements, like, we will set up the carriers agreements, and also how we set up the agreements. That agreement itself is a mammoth. I mean, it's a humongous information. Like, you will have different type of charges. You will have your own logic that how you want to handle. I mean, in my current uh, company, we used almost 16 or 17 different type of charges whenever we go for LTL carrier. We do have like residential, we do have our residential, your California delivery fees, overland charges. There are so many different charges we introduce, and based upon the business requirements. So those information we'll talk about, that how we can influence your freight agreements based upon your calculation sheet, your charge types, your scales, rate tables, and all. And then we will move on to the most thing, which is the optimization, which is kind of your heart of your transportation management, because without planning, uh, it's not going to be difficult for, I mean, it's going to be a very very difficult and challenging stuff for any TM consultant. And plus it's kind of optimizer itself is a uh, it's kind of, I would say, it's a Goliath, because that is kind of you feed the information to the optimizer, but you don't know what information the optimizer takes. But I will tell you that how you can analyze those logs and all, that what information you are feeding and how the system is calculating based upon the results. You can analyze the outcome of the optimizer. There are some transactions and you need to read those informations, like, why the optimizer built uh, one truck, why it did not build three trucks with the same freight unit. There are some logics. You need to understand that how the system calculates. So those informations will be there in the optimizer log, which we will discuss and explain you that how we can read and understand the logic. And then in that we will discuss uh, very deeply about our selection profile and the planning profile, because that is something which is a very very Uh, it's a base because without selection profile and planning profile, we cannot do any optimizer or any planning. We can do the planning, but it's not being efficient. It's a manual planning, and which we don't want to do it. Otherwise, we are just diluting the purpose of TM system. You can do it manually. Then what is the use of implementing TM system? So those are the factors which we will discuss about this. Then we're gonna talk about subcontracting, which is nothing but it's a carrier selections, how we do the carrier selections and all. And then we talk about the tendering process, that how we can do our tendering processes and all. Um, then once everything will be done, then we will talk about the settlement process, like how we can make a payment and how we want to perform a cost distribution based upon the material group kind of thing, and how we can post it to the uh, profitability analysis and all. So we'll talk about this one, and then we'll talk about the integration engine because prior to your S4 HANA 1809, everything is integrated, like inbound messages and outbound messages. That is something which if you want to communicate with ECC or EWM system, you need to deal with some messages like proxy messages. So I will explain you those information because I do have very good hands-on experience with these messages. I worked a lot in the messages stuff. Even I'm still doing it. But my system is compared to my previous project. It's very stable. We don't need to dirty our hand. But if it fails, if anything stuck, it's gonna be a very tedious task for any support consultant. So we'll discuss about this thing in the integration engine discussion in our training. And then moving on to the next, which will be a data replication. Data replication is like when how you are replicating a master data kind of thing. So we do have a different approach like SIF. SIF is, I think, most of the people knows about the core interfaces, but SAP has come up a new functionality in S4 HANA 1809 called DRF, which is nothing but a data replication framework. This data replication framework itself has their own logic that how they can replicate the data, because everything is in the same system. So if the system is same, so how we replicate the data, because it is an embedded system, so we do have some settings to to replicate this data. So we'll also discuss about those things. uh, and we have already discussed about the optimizer engine analysis. Then integration, yeah, so integration of our TM system with other SAP systems, like I will provide you some documents and I will discuss those, how we can integrate kind of thing. uh, are you guys able to see my screen now? Can anyone confirm? Okay. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So and then we'll discuss about the shipper scenario end to end, because it's gonna be a complex, but definitely that is something which we need, because that is the whole crux of the training. Because once you are done with this training, you need to understand that how the shipper scenario works and how you can map the shipper scenario in any TM system. So we'll discuss about that thing in depth, and then we will talk about the integration about the EWM system, like in our old fashion when the EWM system was a standalone system like our TM system, that how do we integrate. So those are the things we will discuss about. And we'll give also I will give you some overview of the EDI message, because EDI is kind of, if you are working on any project, EDI messages are very much required. So you have to deal with the EDI message, like for sending a tendering, or if you are sending an ASN, or if you are receiving an ASN from your vendor. So how you gonna handle those informations, or if you are getting a response back from the tender or from the carrier as a tender response, how you gonna handle those things. So we'll discuss about those things. But since it is an IDA system, we cannot do that thing. But I will provide you some documentation plus some in-depth detailed discussion on this. I will show you some my documents which I have already prepared during my project. Uh, yeah, and then we will discuss about the very much important thing, which is a migration tool, like how this TM migration works in SAP S4 HANA, because that's something is a future. Anyways, we gonna use this thing because nowadays, if in case if you want to go for this migration stuff, or